Good evening, everybody. I'm Phil Schmidt. I'm one of the campus principals at the Forsyth campus, along with the illustrious Kim Barnes. And I'm here tonight. I want to introduce to you one of our students who's going to speak to you in just a moment. I've been in education for a few years, like most of you in the room, and you know that there are a lot of things to love about a career in education, aside from the wonderful salary that you get. But there is one thing about being in education that I've never loved, and that is a graduation ceremony. There are few things in life that are more boring than a graduation ceremony, right? You've got a list of 800 names that somebody's mispronouncing, you're sitting there in this humidity, and you're sweating, and somebody's uncle smuggled in an air horn, and you're just dealing, okay, so, but a few years ago, not long after I joined Mount Ned, I changed my mind about the graduation ceremony, because the ceremonies that we have here are just incredible, they're amazing, and they're very, very special events. Some of our students, when they're graduating, they bring dozens of family members who are celebrating loudly and just loving every minute of this. Some of our students have that one aunt who was able to make it, and that is as special as it can be. But all of them are taking a profound it's a life-changing event for them. Because they have been somewhere in their educational career, they have faced the real possibility that they are not going to finish high school. And there they are walking across the stage. Again, their lives are changed. Most graduation ceremonies in traditional schools are not like that. These kids are just checking a box off in life. You learn to tie your shoes, you get your driver's license, you have your first kiss, you graduate from high school, you go to college, and so on. The kids that we work with every day here at Mount Ned, it's just not like that. But they leave us, having accomplished this and having gotten through this, they leave us they leave emboldened and they're confident and able to face the uncertainties that lie ahead of them. At the Forsyth campus for the past several years, we've skipped over the traditional high honor graduate speech. And instead, for various reasons, but instead what we've done is we've asked one of our students to give an inspirational message. In this past year, we asked Ms. Brooke Dohonney to speak, and she's been invited here to speak with you tonight and to share her message with you. I'm not going to tell you her full story before she gets up here, but I would like to share a few things. Her story is filled with trauma and tragedy and hope. She struggled to stay engaged in her traditional high school, and at some point during her senior year, she stopped attending altogether. Amy Leggett is one of our special ed teachers at the Forsyth campus, and Amy knew Brooke since Brooke was a little girl, and she mentioned to Brooke, hey, what would you think about giving Mount Ned a shot? Brooke said, sure. And like many of our students, she came and went over a few years, making a little bit of progress, all the while that life was punching her in the face. Last fall, a former colleague of mine, a friend, called me up out of the blue. She knew Brooke. She had been working with Brooke on some things, and she wanted to help Brooke to finish her graduation requirements. Brooke was so close at this point, and you've seen these kids, they have just a couple credits left, not much to go, and Brooke was at the point in her life where there was nothing that was going to stop her. As she was approaching graduation, her mentor started talking to her about scholarship opportunities. Some of you might know Tommy Johns down at the Forsyth campus. A couple weeks ago, he turned 89. He's determined to make it to 90, work with Mount Ned. Wonderful, wonderful man. He is passionate about connecting students with scholarships. And he was able to connect Brooke with a Rotary Club scholarship worth several $1,000s. In the process of Tommy talking to her, he found out, he was dumbfounded. He goes on, she sang in a rock and roll band, he was saying. So yeah, Brooke's a singer. You're going to get to hear her sing here in a little bit, and she might make you tear up a little bit, or maybe a lot if you're like me. I mentioned these adults on purpose, and there's just three of many that Brooke could probably list off. And I mentioned them because Brooke recognized that there were people in her life that when she needed it were there for her and helped her get through certain situations. She wants to continue that pattern. She's going to college. In fact, she's already started. And she's entering the field of social work with the intent on helping the helpless in our community. This young woman has been an inspiration to me and to all of us at the Forsyth County campus, and I'm so glad that you get to hear her story tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Brooke Dohonney.
Good evening, everybody. First, I want to start off by saying thank you all so much. Thank you for inviting me here to speak today. But more importantly, thank you for choosing to do the work that you do every single day. I graduated from Mount Education's Forsyth campus, as Mr. Schmidt had mentioned. But while many of you have never met me because we come from different counties, schools, and communities, I hope that by sharing my story today, you'll be reminded of just how much the work that you do truly matters. We all have one thing in common. Here today, we care about students whose stories don't always fit inside a report card or a transcript. When people look at a graduate, they usually see the diploma, and it's more rare that people see what it really takes in order to receive this diploma. Growing up, my life was anything but stable, and I experienced a lot of hardships as a child. My parents divorced, and over the years I lost most of my family members to different circumstances, such as the divorce, death, violence, broken relationships. Home was never a place where I felt safe or supported. At 8 years old, the environment that I was put in caused me to develop a severe eating disorder. I was hospitalized many times throughout my adolescence and diagnosed with mental health illnesses from circumstances that were completely out of my control. There were days I wasn't worried about homework. I was more worried about mustering up the courage to make it through another day. As a teenager, life just kept piling on. I developed an autoimmune disorder that caused me to lose my hair for several years. While that may seem like just a physical condition to some people, it changed a lot about how I saw myself, especially at an age where everyone really wants to fit in. I felt like I stood out in the worst possible way. I battled addiction as a teenager. I survived multiple suicide attempts, and ultimately I dropped out of traditional high school in order to seek the help that I needed and healing. At just 17 years old, I was living on my own and trying to figure out how to be an adult before I even had the chance to be a child. I always knew that I wanted to finish school and go into a career where I could use the hardships that I had faced in order to make a difference and help others, but I was unsure of the path in which I needed to take in order to do that. However, at that point, completing school was not in the cards for me to do normally, and that's where all of you and Mountain Ed came in. I was attending the Forsyth campus, like he had said, on and off for a period of time while I was trying to get on my feet and get a place to live and all of the things like that. I actually stopped going for quite some time, and then I re-enrolled with a friend. At the time, her name is Shannon Darst. Tragically, during the time that we were both trying to complete and graduate that year, Shay and two of my other friends, Philip and Riley, had passed away in a car accident at just 18, 19, and 20 years old. Losing them felt like the final straw on top of everything that I had already, overcame and faced, and I lost a lot of motivation at that point in time. Grief has a way of making the world stand still while everyone else just keeps moving. Looking back, there were countless reasons for me to give up, and statistically, I probably shouldn't be standing here today, but I am. And not because I was stronger than everyone else, but because I, somewhere along the way, people chose not to give up on me, which in turn gave me the courage to not give up on myself. And the educators, administrators, counselors, and staff at Mountain Education saw a person before they saw a problem. They looked beyond my attendance, beyond my grades, my mistakes, and my circumstances, and they saw someone worth investing in. They reminded me that my past didn't have to decide my future. Sometimes they challenged me, sometimes they held me accountable, sometimes they just simply listened. And sometimes, without even really realizing it, they gave me exactly what I needed that day. Sometimes that's a smile in the hallway, a conversation after class, encouragement when I had none left for myself, or the reassurance that someone believed I was capable of becoming more than what life had handed me. What many people don't understand is that the students in these types of schools often aren't carrying just books and pencils. They're carrying trauma, they're carrying anxiety, they're carrying grief, they're carrying responsibilities that no child should ever have to carry. Some are raising siblings, some are working full-time jobs, some are sleeping on couches or wondering where they're going to stay that night. And some are quietly wondering if anyone would even notice if they ever came back. And you may not know which student is carrying which burden, and that's why every single interaction that you have matters. And sometimes your classroom is the safest place that they have all day. Sometimes you're the only adult who asks how they're doing and actually waits around for an answer. And I know this because there were days when school was the safest place for me, and that was the case for me. Your jobs are incredibly difficult. You deal with behaviors from students that are often rooted in trauma, and you make impossible decisions, you work long hours, and there are days when it probably feels like nothing you're doing is making a difference, but it does. Even when you can't see it, even when the student doesn't say thank you, even when they leave your office angry, and even when they graduate and disappear. You are planting seeds that may not grow for years, and I stand here today as one of those seeds. And because someone believed in me, I graduated. And because someone cared enough to keep showing up, I learned to keep showing up too for myself. Today I carry those lessons with me every single day. And I know resilience isn't about pretending life doesn't hurt. It's about choosing to keep moving despite the hurt. And it's much easier to keep moving when someone walks beside you. And one conversation can save a life. One encouraging word can change a future. One adult who refuses to give up can interrupt generations of pain. And as educators and administrators and leaders, you may never know the ending to every student's story, but please don't underestimate the chapter that you are helping write. Thank you for choosing to be that person, and thank you for seeing possibility where others see failure. Thank you for believing in students before they believe in themselves. And I am where I am today, not because my life was easy, but because people like you reminded me that my story wasn't over. And because of that, I will spend the rest of my life following in your footsteps and proving that your work does matter. I am currently in school to become a social worker so that I too can try to show some young people that there is light at the end of the tunnel and that they are strong enough to make it there and that they aren't alone in the journey. And as I close today, I would like to leave you guys with a song that means a lot to me. It's called Rescue by Lauren Daigle. I'm sure some of you are familiar. There were many times in my life when I felt alone, overwhelmed, and like I had no way forward. But I learned that sometimes rescue doesn't come in one big moment. Sometimes it comes through the people who keep showing up, who listen, who believe in you, and who refuse to give up on you. So to me, that's what this song is about, and that's what so many of you do every day for your students. So for that, thank you so much. You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army and find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. There is no distance cannot be covered over and over. You are defenseless. I'll be your shelter, I'll be your armor. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. Darkest night, it's true, I hear you whisper you have nothing left. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's